Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They settle into the floorboards, coil in the shadows, and breathe the dust you stir. They have memories of their own, long and tangled, not all of them pleasant. Sometimes you step into one of these places without knowing, drawn by a faded sign or a cheap lease. You tell yourself it's charming, full of character, a project, but the character is old, and the project might be you. This is one such place, a house settling under a sky that always feels a little too gray overhead. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The old house breathes a sigh around you as you unload the last box. It's a low sound, like wind through a keyhole, constant and quiet. Dust motes dance in the single beam of late afternoon light that slants through a tall, grimy window. The air tastes of damp stone and something else, something faint and faintly sweet, like dying flowers. You call it charm. It's got solid bones, the listing said. Maybe it's just tired bones, aching and settling. You move through the empty rooms, each step echoing on the polished, worn floorboards. It feels vast, even though it's not. The ceilings are high, the doorways wide. You unpack just enough to survive the first night. A mattress on the floor, a few changes of clothes, basic toiletries. Exhaustion clings to you like the smell of old wood smoke. Finally, the day bleeds into evening. You decide a shower is necessary, a way to wash away the grime of the move and the lingering scent of the house. The bathroom is small, tucked into a corner, clad in cracked white tiles that feel cool and somehow slick under your bare feet. You turn the tap, wait for the water to warm. Steam begins to fill the confined space, fogging the small mirror, coating the walls in a humid haze. It feels good. The heat a comforting blanket against the creeping chill of the house. The spray hits your skin, a gentle drumming sound, and then you hear it. Beneath the sound of the water, beneath the hiss of steam, there is another sound. It's faint, muffled, as if coming through a thick wall, or perhaps from somewhere below the floorboards you stand on. It sounds like crying, a soft, broken sound, barely audible. You freeze, water running over you. Your first thought is pipes. Old houses make noises. The building is settling. Or maybe it's a neighbor, though the nearest house seems far away. You rationalize, your mind scrambling for normal explanations. It's nothing. Just the house talking to itself. You finish your shower quickly, stepping out onto the cool tiles again. The crying stops as soon as the water cuts off, leaving only the drip from the faucet and the lingering humidity. The bathroom feels suddenly much colder. You tell yourself you imagined it, or that it was just the acoustics. But as you dry off, you notice something else. A faint, earthy, damp smell hangs low in the air near the floor, a scent that wasn't there when you first came in. It feels wrong, out of place, like something breathing just out of sight. You stand still, listening, but only the house's quiet sigh answers. Could it be just the house, though? Or is it something else entirely? You shiver, not entirely from the cold. The sound, at first a phantom wisp of sorrow caught on the edge of hearing, has sharpened. It is no longer ignorable, a trick of the pipes or the wind. Now it possesses a distinct clarity, a wet, raw edge that curls in the air and settles in the listener's chest. It is crying, undoubtedly, and sometimes, beneath the keening, a low, guttural murmur begins, a resonant thrum that feels less like a sound perceived by the ears and more like a vibration felt deep in the bones, pulsing strangely up through the bathroom floorboards. You begin to listen with a different kind of intensity, not just passively enduring, but actively seeking. Subtle investigations commence. Kneeling by the sink, you run your hand along the cold metal pipes, tracing their path into the wall, listening for any correlating gurgle or sigh. The plumbing seems solid, indifferent. You search for signs of a crawlspace access, a hatch or panel that might explain a void beneath, but the flooring seems continuous, sealed. Later, you move through the house, deliberately turning on taps in other rooms, listening hard from the hall outside the bathroom door. The sounds of water moving elsewhere are different, cleaner, less burdened. They lack that dreadful, sorrowful cadence. The water motif, subtle at first, deepens its claim on your attention. You start to notice things. Faint, irregular patches of dampness bloom on the bathroom wall near the skirting board, like watercolors seeping into old paper. They are pale initially, easy to dismiss as condensation or an old, resurfacing stain. But they seem to deepen slightly when the crying is loudest. Run your hand over the spot, and the wall feels unnaturally cold, colder than the surrounding plaster, even in the warmth of a running shower. There is a scent now, too, distinct from the steam and soap, a faint, slightly metallic smell, like standing too close to an old copper pipe that has sprung the silent leak. It clings to the air when the crying is near. Your mind shifts, a subtle but profound alteration. The initial unease curdles into persistent worry, then blooms into a quiet, consuming obsession. You find yourself drawn to the bathroom door, even when you have no need to enter, listening, not just during showers anymore, but while reading, while trying to sleep. The world outside the house seems distant, muted. The focus narrows entirely to the space beneath the floor, to the source of that sound. It becomes a weight you carry, a secret you can't articulate, a problem demanding a solution that eludes you. Where does it come from? One evening, as you stand outside the bathroom door, the crying starts again, but this time it is not alone. A new sound joins it, rhythmic and distinct, a series of measured taps, like something being struck against a hard surface. Rock, concrete. The tapping is steady, deliberate, a chilling counterpoint to the ragged sobs, and it vibrates up through the floor. A communication you don't understand, a lock you don't have the key for. The rising tide of unease washes over you, cold and persistent. It demands answers, or perhaps just recognition. The silence of the apartment when the distant sorrow ceases its low thrumming feels heavier than stone. Something is here, beneath the floorboards, locked away or perhaps rooted deep in the earth itself. Driven by this gnawing anxiety, you begin to dig, not into the ground, but into the past. Library archives beckon, dusty and quiet, filled with the ghosts of paper and ink. Local historical societies, moldering boxes of records, brittle newspaper clippings. You seek them out, hands trembling slightly as you sift through accounts of forgotten times. You uncover whispers, not clear histories, but fragmented anecdotes buried in local folklore and microfiche records. Mentions of the area, long before the building stood. A tragic incident, vague and unsettling, tied to a sudden collapse or a strange disappearance. Talk of ground that wasn't quite stable, built over something forgotten, something sealed. An old well, a natural sinkhole? The details are obscured by time and the imprecise language of old reports. As you pore over these fragments, a chill emanates directly from the floor beneath your chair. A physical cold that seems to seep up through the concrete and wood, settling in your bones. The air grows thick with the musty scent of decay and aged paper, a smell that coats your tongue and fills your lungs. Back in the apartment, armed with these unearthed echoes, you listen. The crying from below, usually a steady, mournful sound, seems to react to your investigation. It changes pitch, sometimes rising to a thin, reedy wail that scrapes at your nerves, other times sinking into a low, guttural moan that feels heavy with suppressed rage or desperate plea. It knows you are looking. The water motif, previously subtle, becomes overtly unsettling. The dark water stains on the walls of the bedroom no longer look like random Rorschach blots. They seem to subtly shift, elongating into forms that hint at grasping hands or elongated figures. And the bathroom mirror, even hours after the shower has been off, long after the last vestige of steam should have dissipated, develops a thick layer of condensation, obscuring your reflection. It forms a veil between you and the glass, a milky surface that hides whatever is behind it, or perhaps whatever is trying to look through. The relentless pressure of these events begins to fracture something inside. Paranoia takes root, a cold vine tightening around your thoughts. Are you imagining the shifts in the crying, the movement in the stains? Is the history you found simply a template onto which your own fear is being projected? The mirror, fogged and hiding, feels less like the simple object and more like a boundary, a surface refusing to show you the truth, or perhaps protecting you from it. Doubt settles deep, a chilling companion to the fear. You read a particularly cryptic passage in an old local history, hinting at a sound from the deep associated with the land, a person lost to the earth, near where the building now stands. The words feel like a confirmation and a curse. What if the past isn't just influencing your perception, but actively reaching out? What if you are not just researching history, but awakening it? The glass of the mirror, obscured by moisture, feels cold to the touch, a barrier between your trembling hand and whatever lies beneath the surface, like a promise whispered in the fog. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. This old house, for instance, it stands on a forgotten lane, breathing quietly. It doesn't announce its secrets. It lets you find them, tucked away in the dust motes, dancing in the shafts of light. Or perhaps, just perhaps, in the spaces between the walls. You moved in seeking quiet, perhaps a forgotten history. What you found was a silence that wasn't empty, but patient. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The first signs were deceptively small, easily dismissed. A peculiar acoustic trick in the bathroom, the way certain sounds seemed amplified, others swallowed whole. You stand before the mirror, brushing your teeth, and catch a fleeting glimpse of movement in the periphery. Just the settling house, you tell yourself, or your own reflection shifting slightly as you move. Yet, the reflection in the glass feels less like a mirror and more like a thin pane of ice separating you from something else. There's a persistent, almost imperceptible sound of water moving, not from active pipes, but a faint murmur buried deep within the walls, a sound you can only hear when everything else is still, late at night. It's like a sluggish pulse. You lean closer to the mirror, tilting your head, trying to pinpoint the source of that subsurface gurgle. The glass is cool under your fingertips. This subtle, ongoing flow of invisible water becomes a quiet obsession, a sound you listen for without meaning to, a constant undercurrent beneath the surface of your new life here. Sometimes you think you hear something else underneath the water sound, something harder, more deliberate, but it's too faint to be sure. Was the house always this cold? The air feels heavy, stagnant, clinging to the back of your throat. You find yourself standing in the bathroom doorway for longer than necessary, just listening. Is the house listening back? The mirror watches, always watches. The faint, buried sound of water gives way to something distinct, something rhythmic, something from directly below the bathroom. It starts as a soft, insistent tapping, like a knuckle on wood, but muffled by earth or stone. Tap, tap, tap. It's not the plumbing settling, not the house groaning in the wind. This is deliberate, slow, patient. It comes at odd hours, often in the dead of night, just as you are drifting to sleep. You lie awake, straining to hear it over the sound of your own heart hammering against your ribs. Getting out of bed feels like breaking a fragile spell. You creep to the bathroom, the floorboards protesting under your weight. Standing on the linoleum, you place your ear against the cold tile floor. The tapping is clearer here, resonating up through the foundation. Tap, tap, tap. It sounds strangely hollow, yet dense, carrying a weight that belies its softness. Fear, cold and sharp, begins to prickle under your skin. You tap back, a foolish, involuntary response, born of morbid curiosity and a desperate need for a rational explanation. The tapping stops. Silence answers. This silence, however, feels different from the silence before. It is charged, expectant. You look up at the mirror, and for a split second, the reflection seems to lag, a beat behind your own movement, the eyes in the glass fixed on the floor where you had just been listening. You step back quickly, shaking your head. It was nothing, just tired eyes playing tricks. But the image lingers, the delayed reflection, the unnervingly still eyes in the glass. The air in the room grows heavy, thick with unspoken questions. Was that a breath you heard from below? Or just your own shaky exhale? The tapping returns, bolder now, sometimes joined by a low, drawn-out groan that seems to vibrate up through the floorboards into your very bones. It's not just the bathroom anymore. You hear the rhythmic tapping in the hall, just outside the bathroom door, sometimes faintly in the bedroom adjacent. It feels like it's moving, or perhaps trying to move. The sound follows you, a constant, low-frequency thrumming beneath the surface of your awareness. You spend hours online, researching old houses, plumbing issues, settling foundations, anything to explain the unnatural sounds. You find articles on water tables, disused wells, even local folklore about things buried deep. None of it fits the chilling deliberation of the tapping. The fear solidifies, becoming a constant companion, a heavy weight in your gut. Sleep is elusive, punctuated by phantom taps or the imagined sound of that low groan morphing into something else, something less human. You find yourself talking to the house, pleading with it, or whatever is beneath it, for silence. It never responds with words, only the rhythmic tap, 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 a relentless, passive aggression. The mirrors seem brighter now, reflecting too much light, too much detail, almost as if they are trying too hard to be normal. You catch your reflection staring, unblinking, not at you, but past you, into the room, as if seeing something you cannot. A knot of unease tightens in your chest. What is it looking at? Or is it waiting for the tapping to stop too? The house holds its breath. The activity beneath escalates beyond just sound. Physical phenomena begin to manifest, centered unnervingly on the bathroom directly above where you heard the rhythmic tapping. A significant drop in temperature settles near the bathroom floor, an icy chill that seems to suck the warmth from the room, making the air ache in your lungs. Pipes groan or rattle violently when the shower is on, sounds of tortured metal and rushing water that feel entirely unnatural, like something is struggling in the plumbing. Patches of wall near the floor become unnervingly cold to the touch, even when the heating is on high, radiating a damp, earth-like chill. The tapping is now sometimes interspersed with other sounds, scraping, dragging noises from directly below, or distorted whispers that seem to form fragmented words you can't quite decipher. Just a low, guttural mumble that raises the fine hairs on your arms. The water motif becomes more direct, more disturbing. Small puddles appear from nowhere near the drain, not from use, but seeming to well up from below. Condensation runs down the cold walls like tears, glistening in the low light. You stand before the shower door glass, and the reflection seems momentarily warped, showing something indistinct below, a fleeting distortion that vanishes the instant you try to focus. The sensory details overwhelm, the profound icy chill that seems to penetrate your bones, the acrid smell of rust and stagnant water that now pervades the room, and the disconcerting visual of the weeping walls, streaks of moisture like slow tears. Your psychological state fractures into intense fear and isolation. You start avoiding the bathroom or showering only when necessary, feeling watched, felt from beneath the floorboards. You notice that the intensity of the phenomena seems strongest directly above where you previously heard the rhythmic tapping sound, an invisible point of malice emanating from below. The mirrors throughout the house feel like eyes, constantly cataloging your fear, reflecting the chilling reality that something is waiting, watching, just beneath your feet. Are the walls crying because they are cold, or because they are afraid? The phenomena seep outwards. The icy chill near the bathroom floor now seems to creep into the adjacent hallway, a cold tongue licking at the edges of the fear you desperately try to contain. The acrid smell of rust and stagnant water isn't confined to the bathroom anymore. You catch whiffs of it near the basement door, or sometimes, inexplicably, upstairs in the bedroom. A sudden, sickening odor that fades as quickly as it appeared, leaving you questioning your senses. The sounds evolve. The scraping is louder, more deliberate, like something is patiently trying to wear through the barrier between you and it. The whispers are more frequent, though still fragmented and distorted, just below the threshold of understanding. A constant, maddening murmur you strain to hear. You find yourself standing in the middle of rooms, head cocked, listening, feeling the oppressive presence of whatever is beneath the house. The small puddles near the bathroom drain are more frequent now, and sometimes A thin line of moisture streaks down a wall in the hallway. Nowhere near plumbing, just a chilling, unexplained wetness. The house feels smaller, the walls closing in, every shadow seeming to writhe with unseen movement. The reflection in the shower door glass hasn't warped again since that initial moment, but you avoid looking at it directly, afraid of what you might see or what it might show you is no longer below. You feel hunted, cornered in your own home. The silence between the sounds, more terrifying than the sounds themselves. The recurring motif of mirrors takes a darker turn. Walking past any reflective surface, a window at night, the polished surface of a table, even the blank screen of your phone, you catch glimpses of movement, shadows that don't match your own, or fleeting distortions that suggest the reflection isn't quite yours. The isolation is profound. Who would believe you? You stop talking about it, pulling inward, trapped in a silent horror. Is it trying to get in, or simply reminding you it's already there? The sounds taper off gradually, not with a bang, but a slow fade. The scraping becomes less frequent, the whispers less distinct, receding back into the low hum of the house itself. The dramatic pipe rattling ceases. The strange puddles stop appearing. The walls dry their tears. The intense, localized cold near the bathroom floor remains, a persistent, unnerving reminder. But it doesn't seem to spread further. A fragile silence settles over the house, a silence that feels earned, exhausted. But it is not the silence of peace. It is the silence that follows a storm, charged with lingering tension. The aftermath is subtle but pervasive. You are left with the psychological residue, the indelible marks of fear etched into your mind. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind, sends a jolt of panic through you. Sleep is still troubled, haunted by fragmented sounds and fleeting, distorted images from the edge of sight. The bathroom remains a place of unease, visited only when necessary. The cold spot on the floor, a chilling landmark in your memory. The unanswered questions hang in the air like dust motes in that faint shaft of light. What was it? Why did it tap? What did it want? Was it ever truly gone, or did it simply retreat, bored or sated or just waiting? The recurring motif of mirrors seems to have lost its malevolent edge, for now. Reflections are clear again, sharp and undistorted. Yet you find yourself avoiding them all the same, or scrutinizing them for subtle signs, remnants of the distortions you saw, terrified that they might show you something is still lurking, not below anymore, but behind you. You are left with the chilling certainty that the house holds secrets deeper than its foundations, and some secrets are best left buried. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They settle into the quiet corners, the unused spaces, and hum a low, persistent frequency that only certain ears can perceive. This place, this house, holds one such silence, broken only by what lies just beneath the floorboards of a simple bathroom. It is a mystery tucked away in the domestic, a secret breathing in the dark. What began as a faint disturbance has grown into a presence. A weight that presses down on the air, cold and damp with unspoken things. We are drawn to such places, aren't we? Pulled by the invisible threads of curiosity or something far older and more primal. The descent is often gradual, almost imperceptible, until you find yourself looking up, realizing how far down you've come. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The house breathes a sigh you can feel more than hear. It is a low, resonant thrum originating somewhere deep in its foundations, a sound you first mistook for the old boiler or the groan of settling wood. But it doesn't stop. It is constant, a persistent pressure beneath your feet, particularly when you stand in the bathroom. It is here the sounds begin, not loud, not sudden, but faint, muffled, as if heard through layers of earth and stone and silence. Sometimes it's a soft scraping, like something shifting slowly against rough concrete. Other times, it's a low, indistinct murmur, too quiet to resolve into words, like conversation carried on the wind from miles away. You lean closer to the floor, pressing an ear against the cool linoleum. The thrum intensifies slightly here, a deep pulse that seems to align with your own heartbeat. There is also the water. Even when all taps are off, even after the shower has been dry for hours, there is the ghost sound of dripping. Drip, drip. It seems to come from under the sink, or perhaps directly beneath the bathtub drain. You check the pipes, search for leaks, but find none. The pipes are dry, silent, the wood beneath them visibly free of water stains. Yet the sound persists, a rhythmic counterpoint to the deeper thrumming. It is a phantom dripping, a sound born of dampness and confinement. Drip, drip. It taps against your sanity, a tiny, insistent hammer. You find yourself pausing in other rooms, listening, wondering if the sound has followed you, or if it has simply burrowed into your mind. This faint, impossible dripping is the first crack in the predictable world. It suggests a hidden source, a place where water might be, even if it isn't here. The bathroom feels different now. The air is heavy, thick with a strange earthy scent we can't quite place, like wet soil and old metal. It clings to your clothes, permeates your skin. You catch yourself sniffing the air, trying to locate the source, but it seems to emanate from the floor itself, rising like mist from the tiles. This scent, this phantom dripping, the low, constant thrum, they are becoming the defining characteristics of this room, overriding the familiar smell of soap and clean linen. You start to avoid the bathroom, making excuses, finding reasons to use the one downstairs, even though it's less convenient. But the sounds, the feeling of pressure, they seem to seep through the walls, finding you anyway. You lie in bed at night, straining to hear, convinced the house is groaning, not just settling, but actively shifting, making space for whatever is moving below. Is this house alive, or is something else making it groan? The silence that follows this thought is louder than any sound. The muffled sounds from beneath the bathroom floor begin to coalesce, forming something almost recognizable. It's not distinct speech, but a pattern, a cadence, something that feels like suppressed emotion. And beneath it, the constant thrumming has changed too. It's faster now, more anxious, like a frantic pulse echoing through the structure. You spend hours in the hallway outside the bathroom door, just listening. The phantom dripping has become almost constant, sometimes speeding up, a frantic tattoo against the floorboards, sometimes slowing to a mournful single drop. Drip, drip, drip. It feels like tears falling into stagnant water. You start seeing things, or perhaps just sensing them, in the periphery of your vision. Fleeting shadows that dart just outside the frame of the bathroom doorway. A flicker of movement in the warped surface of the old mirror above the sink. You turn your head sharply, but there is nothing there, only your own tired reflection staring back, eyes wide with a fear you try to ignore. The air in the bathroom is noticeably colder now, carrying that same earthy, metallic tang. It feels like standing near an open grave. This chilling air, this pervasive dampness you can't see but can feel, clings to your skin. The feeling of pressure from beneath has increased too. It's no longer just a sound, but a physical sensation, a subtle vibration that travels up through the soles of your feet when you stand on the bathroom floor. It feels like something is pressing up, pushing against the barrier between worlds. You kneel, placing your hand flat against the cold tile. The vibration is distinct now, a low, persistent tremor. It feels like breathing, or maybe it feels like something trying to breathe. You pull your hand back quickly, a cold dread prickling your skin. There is something down there, something moving, something living. This realization is the next fracture point, fear giving way to a morbid fascination. You start looking at the floor differently, seeing it not as solid ground, but as a thin membrane separating you from the unknown. Is it the house holding its breath, or is something else holding ours? The silence that follows is thick with anticipation. The muffled sounds evolve further, becoming undeniably, terrifyingly human. It is crying now, a low, heartbroken weeping that resonates from directly beneath the bathroom floor. It is soft, almost childlike, filled with a profound and endless sorrow. The persistent thrumming has faded, replaced entirely by this mournful sound, punctuated by the phantom dripping, which now sounds less like water and more like slow, despairing tears. Drip, drip, drip. It is relentless, a constant reminder of the suffering just inches below. The house itself seems to respond to this sadness. The air is heavy, saturated with that same damp, earthy smell, now mixed with something cloying and sweet, like decaying flowers. The feeling of pressure from below is almost unbearable when you stand in the bathroom, a crushing weight that makes your ears pop and your head ache, like being submerged deep underwater. You start bringing in towels, leaving them spread on the floor as if to absorb the invisible moisture, to somehow comfort the unseen sorrow beneath. The tiles feel slick underfoot, even when they are dry to the touch, a chilling, phantom dampness that seeps into your bones. Your fear begins to twist into something else entirely, a desperate need to understand. Why is there crying? Who is down there? How did they get there? This curiosity gnaws at you, overriding your instinct for self-preservation. You find yourself drawn to the bathroom at all hours, sitting on the closed toilet seat, listening, trying to interpret the language of grief echoing from below. The flickering shadows in the periphery are more frequent now, seeming to cluster around the edges of the room, pressing in. You catch glimpses of shapes that aren't quite human, fleeting distortions in your vision. This obsession consumes you, eclipsing everything else. Sleep is disturbed by dreams of drowning or being buried alive. Food holds no taste. The outside world feels distant and irrelevant. You are tethered to this place, to the sounds from below. Is the sadness trapped beneath the floor, or is it simply reflecting the sorrow already inside the walls? The silence that follows, feels heavy with shared grief. Your initial fear has dissolved completely, replaced by a desperate, burning need for understanding, a compulsion to reach the source of the sounds, to see what lies beneath the bathroom floor. You start searching the room frantically, running your hands along the baseboards, tapping at the walls, looking for any access point, any hidden hatch or panel that might lead to the space below. You pry at the vent near the floor, manage to loosen the grate and peer into the darkness beneath, but see only dust and cobwebs and old, cold earth, nothing that could explain the sounds. The sounds themselves have changed again. The crying stopped abruptly sometime last night, leaving behind an unnerving silence. Now, there is a different sound, a low guttural scraping, interspersed with a sharp, aggressive tapping, like fingernails scrabbling against concrete. It is a sound of frustration, or perhaps of rage. The water motif peaks. The feeling of pressure in the bathroom is overwhelming, like being submerged to crushing depths. The air feels thick and heavy with phantom dampness, soaking into your clothes, your skin, leaving you shivering even when the room is warm. The sound of dripping echoes constantly in your ears, even when you are far from the bathroom. A relentless drip, drip, drip that feels like water filling your skull. Sensory details overwhelm you. A phantom taste of dirt and metal fills your mouth. You feel the distinct sensation of cold breath on your ankles when standing near the bathroom floor, as if something is breathing up from below. Surfaces that are visibly dry feel chillingly damp to the touch. Your psychological break is profound now, obsession blurring reality. You neglect basic needs. Food and sleep are forgotten details. Time loses meaning, measured only by the changing sounds from beneath. Your own identity feels thin, dissolving into the mystery of what's below, becoming less you and more an extension of the house's secret. You stare into the toilet bowl, the water still and dark, and for a fleeting, horrifying moment, you catch a reflection there that is not your own face, but a distorted shape, eerily like a human form, trapped just below the surface, pressing upwards against the water. Is it trying to get out or pull you in? The silence that follows is absolute, waiting. The sounds from below have ceased entirely. The aggressive scratching, the guttural scraping, the phantom dripping, all gone. There is only the deep, oppressive silence left in the bathroom, thicker and heavier than before. It is a silence that feels weighted, watchful. The feeling of submerged pressure remains. A constant ache behind your eyes, a dull throbbing in your ears. You avoid the bathroom now, not out of fear, but a strange, unsettling stillness. The air in the house feels different. The phantom dampness is gone, replaced by a dry, cold emptiness that seems to suck the warmth from the air. The reflection in the toilet bowl is just water now, still and unremarkable. The old mirror above the sink shows only your own hollowed face. The obsession has faded, not resolved, but simply worn itself out, leaving behind a profound exhaustion and a sense of detachment. You move through the house like a ghost, listless, the vibrant colors of the world muted, the sharp edges of reality blurred. The memory of the sounds, the pressure, the feeling of breath on your ankles, they linger like a persistent phantom limb. The phantom dripping is the only sound that occasionally returns. A faint drip, 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 echoing in the empty chambers of your mind. A rhythm you can no longer escape. The house feels empty now, its secret either gone or finally at rest. But sometimes, when you walk past the bathroom door, you still feel that faint, cold pressure from beneath the floorboards. It is less a push now, and more a settling, a heavy weight finding its final place. It didn't break through, but maybe it didn't need to. Maybe it just needed the connection. Did it find peace, or simply a new cage? The silence that follows is eternal. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They lie dormant in the dust motes dancing in stale air, in the sighs of settling foundations, in the history pressed into tired floorboards. They are patient, these places, until something or someone stirs the deep quiet. An old house often holds these echoes best, its walls whispering secrets the living try to ignore. We step across the threshold, not knowing if we are entering a history or becoming a part of its continuation. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You step across the threshold, the old wood groaning a welcome or a warning. It is hard to tell the difference anymore. The air inside the house is thick, carrying the phantom scent of damp earth and something else, something sour and forgotten, like old copper left wet. It clings to your clothes, a silent accusation. You are here because of a sound, a faint, insistent drip, drip, drip that began weeks ago, not from a leaky faucet you could fix, but seemingly from the foundations, deep below the house's skin. It is a sound that logic dismisses. There are no pipes there, the plumber confirmed, shaking his head with a nervous look in his eye. But the sound persists, especially at night, a rhythm against the vast, unnatural silence that blankets this place. Tonight, the dripping is louder, joined by a faint, almost imperceptible gurgle, like water struggling against an obstruction far beneath the floorboards. You walk toward the sound, drawn by a morbid curiosity that gnaws at the edges of your reason. The floor feels colder here, near the old cast-iron grate that leads to the crawlspace, a dark mouth perpetually ajar. You kneel, pressing your ear against the rough metal, and the sound is clearer now, definitely water, but layered with something else, a soft, rhythmic scrape, like stone against stone. It is impossible, yet undeniable. A wave of irrational panic washes over you. This isn't just old house noises. It feels deliberate, a signal. You stand abruptly, heart hammering, and back away, stumbling over a loose rug. The silence returns instantly, heavy and watchful, as if the sound was merely a test, an invitation you failed to accept fully. The grate stares up at you, black and impassive, a single cobweb trembling across its opening. You find yourself listening, intently, for the return of the sound, for any hint that you weren't alone in hearing it. The silence is the first real terror. It suggests something heard, you listening back. Was it just the house settling, mocking your fear with its quiet? Or had something paused, waiting for you to draw closer? You can't be sure, but the stillness feels pregnant with unspoken threats. You turn away, but your ears remain attuned to the floor, to the deep, listening dark below. The silence from below stretches for hours, a tangible weight pressing down from the floorboards. Then, just as the first hint of false dawn touches the grimy windows, the sound returns. It is no longer a simple drip or gurgle. This time, It sounds unmistakably like movement in water, slow and deliberate, accompanied by a faint, scraping drag that sends a tremor up your spine. It seems to originate from directly beneath the bathroom, where the old clawfoot tub sits like a porcelain mausoleum. You stand frozen in the hallway, listening, your breath catching in your throat. The bathroom door is slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness within. The air feels heavy, colder than the rest of the house. You approach cautiously, pushing the door open a fraction more. The room is dim, lit only by the weak light filtering through the frosted pane. The sounds are louder now, distinct. The slosh of water, the scraping, and something else, a faint, wet sigh. You stare at the tub, its surface still and empty, no water running, no obvious source for the noise. Yet the sounds are coming from it, or perhaps from the drain, deep within its porcelain throat. A profound sense of dread seizes you. A cold certainty that what you are hearing is not natural. You are standing on the edge of something ancient and unsettling. Your mind scrambles for a rational explanation. Old pipes expanding, perhaps, or trapped air pockets? But the wet sigh shatters these flimsy defenses. It sounds like something breathing. You back away slowly, your eyes fixed on the tub, on the drain that seems to stare back like a dark, unblinking eye. The desire to flee is overwhelming, but a horrifying fascination roots you to the spot. You realize with chilling clarity that you are not just hearing something. You are listening to something that knows it is being heard. The silence that follows this new symphony of sounds is the deepest yet, charged with a malevolent awareness. It confirms that you are not alone in this house, and whatever shares it with you resides in the dark, wet places below, listening back. Days bleed into a constant state of hypervigilance. Sleep offers no respite. Dreams are filled with dark water, submerged shapes, and the relentless sound of scraping against stone. The house itself seems to respond to your fear. The pipes groan and shudder at random hours, not with the rhythm of the dripping, but sharp, percussive knocks that make you jump. The air near the floorboards is perpetually cold, a clammy chill that seems to seep up from the foundations like mist. This pervasive cold is an atmospheric detail that now permeates every room, anchoring the horror to the physical space. You spend hours by the bathroom grate or kneeling by the tub, listening. The sounds are intermittent now, sometimes just the distant phantom dripping, other times the unnerving slosh and scrape, but they are always followed by that profound, heavy silence, the motif deepening its hold. One evening, as you stare into the drain of the bathtub, mesmerized by its black depth, you see it, or think you see it. A flicker of movement in the dark, a pale, ephemeral shape that vanishes the instant you blink. Was it a trick of the light? Fatigue? Or something else? This is the uncanny event, brief and ambiguous, shaking your grip on reality. This moment of seeing something in the water's reflection or the drain's dark eye is a fracture. You start questioning your sanity, wondering if the isolation and the stress are conjuring phantoms in the corners of your vision. Doubt twists your thoughts. Is this house haunted, or are you breaking? You pull away from the drain, heart pounding, the phantom smell of damp earth suddenly overwhelming. The silence returns, not empty, but full of implied presence, the sense of being watched, of something waiting for you to slip further. You whisper to the drain, a desperate plea or question you can't remember. The silence answers, cold and vast. It feels like it knows your name. Was it just the wind outside, rattling the old pipes? Or had the silence swallowed your whisper whole, carrying it down to the waiting dark? You listen intently, but hear only your own ragged breathing and the oppressive, listening silence. Oh wait, the psychological fracture deepens into genuine paranoia. You find yourself avoiding the bathroom, taking hurried showers, keeping the door shut tight. But the sounds follow you, or perhaps you carry them with you. The faint slosh of water seems to echo from the walls in other rooms. The distant scrape seems to resonate beneath your chair. The recurring motif of listening intensifies. You are constantly attuned to the subtle shifts in the house's noises, trying to differentiate between the mundane creaks and the impossible sounds from below. The silence is no longer just heavy. It feels loaded, like a trap ready to spring. The uncanny event escalates from mere sight to something more direct. You are standing in the kitchen, preparing a meal, when a sudden, intense wave of cold washes over you. Not just the ambient chill of the house, but a localized, piercing cold that originates from your feet and seems to crawl upward. Simultaneously, you hear a distinct, wet whisper emanating from the floor drain near the sink. It is too faint to make out words, but the sound is undeniably there, wet and guttural, as if spoken through clenched teeth submerged in water. You freeze, the knife clattering from your hand. The whispered sound stops abruptly. The cold recedes, leaving behind a lingering numbness in your feet. This is a profound moment of fracture. It is no longer just auditory or visual. It is a physical sensation tied directly to the unseen presence below. You back away slowly, staring at the innocent-looking drain, the fear rendering you speechless. Was the whisper a warning? A threat? You don't know, but the experience leaves you trembling, certain that whatever is down there is growing bolder, reaching out. The silence that falls feels like a predator pausing before the strike. You stand in the kitchen, listening, not just with your ears, but with every nerve ending, convinced that the foundations are alive and they are hungry for your attention. You wonder if others heard it too, in the house's long history, and what happened to them. The line between reality and hallucination blurs completely. Sleep is a forgotten luxury. You exist in a state of perpetual unease, the recurring motif of listening consuming your every waking moment. The house has become a cage, the silence a solid wall, the sounds from below its relentless prodding. The uncanny event reaches its terrifying zenith during a night consumed by the worst storm the town has seen in years. Rain lashes against the windows, wind howls like a tormented spirit, and the old house groans and shudders on its foundations. Amidst the tempest, the sounds from below return, louder and more violent than ever before. The sloshing becomes a furious surge, the scraping a frantic scrabble, and the wet sighs turn into choked, gasping breaths that seem to echo from the very walls around you. You retreat to the bathroom, drawn by a morbid compulsion you can no longer fight. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and that foul, coppery odor. You stand by the tub, staring at the drain, which now seems to gleam dully in the darkness, like a malignant eye. Suddenly, the water in the tub, which was empty, begins to swirl gently, forming a slow vortex over the drain. The scraping sound intensifies, as if something is desperately trying to claw its way through the pipe. Then, a wet, resonant thud shakes the floor beneath your feet, and the scraping stops. For a moment, there is a terrible, expectant silence. The water in the tub goes still. This is the peak of the horror, a direct physical manifestation of the unseen force. You feel an intense pressure in your chest, as if the house itself is holding its breath. Was the thing trapped below finally breaking through? Or was it merely pressing against the barrier, measuring its strength? You don't know, but the sheer impossible reality of the swirling water and the violent thud leaves you shattered. A wave of dizziness washes over you, and the edges of your vision darken. You remember falling, or perhaps simply sinking into the oppressive silence. The last thing you hear is the distant, relentless drumming of rain against the roof, and the terrifying, absolute silence from the drain below. The direct, terrifying manifestations eventually ceased, or perhaps you simply cannot remember them anymore. The rain outside today is a gentle hush. The pipes are silent. But the experience in the old house has left you irrevocably changed, a watermark etched into your psyche. The crying sounds from below, or the sloshing, may return intermittently, faint and fleeting. But the silence that follows is now more terrifying than the sounds ever were. You find yourself constantly listening, straining to hear any telltale creak or groan from the building's bones, especially near the floor, near the foundations. The water motif is now integrated into your everyday life. The sound of rain against the window pane, the rush of a running faucet, even the quiet displacement of water in a glass can trigger intense anxiety or a fleeting auditory hallucination, a phantom gurgle, a distant splash. Sensory details linger like a persistent phantom limb. You sometimes catch the faintest smell of damp earth when no soil is near, or feel that localized, persistent chill near your feet, regardless of the room's temperature. Shadows around the bathroom door seem deeper, more active, coalescing into shapes that dissolve when you look directly at them. Your final psychological state is one of lingering paranoia, a perpetual state of readiness for something that may or may not come. There are unsettling memory gaps about the peak of the events, whole hours swallowed by fear or something else entirely. Or perhaps, worse than paranoia, is a quiet, unsettling acceptance that something unknowable resides just beneath you, always listening. The resolution remains ambiguously submerged. Was it a ghost, a trapped entity from the building's dark history, or a manifestation of your own unraveling mind, broken by isolation and fear? Whatever it was, the horror hasn't truly left. It's merely receded, like the tide, into the foundations, waiting patiently in the dark water below. And every time you hear the water run, see the rain fall, or listen to the house settle, you remember what lies beneath, listening. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.